The beast in the cage. The metal gate of the arena creaked open with a loud sound. Thousands of aliens shouted from the high stone stands above, their eyes fixed on the center pit. Sand flew into the air as footsteps echoed across the ground. Young human man walked slowly into the arena. His name was Jason Carter. He wore simple prison clothes, dirty, torn, and soaked in sweat. Chains were still wrapped around his wrists, though loosely. Guards pushed him forward. He looked up and saw the crowd. Different alien species filled the stands. Green skin, blue scales, long tentacles, wings, horns, sharp teeth. But every one of them was watching him like he was already dead. Then she entered. From the opposite gate came General Vryza, the feared warrior queen of the Tarvax Empire. She wore black armor that shone under the red suns above. In one hand she held a long chain. It dragged across the ground behind her. At the end of the chain was the beast. It was massive, 8 feet tall, with black fur, long claws, and glowing red eyes. Its mouth dripped with thick saliva. The crowd went silent as it stepped forward. Even they were afraid of it. Vryza raised her voice. "Why aren't you trembling, human? One word from me and my pet will devour you." The crowd cheered wildly. Jason looked at the beast. It growled low, its hot breath hitting his face. But Jason didn't move. He didn't even blink. Instead, he smiled. Vryza's eyes narrowed. She walked a little closer, yanking the chain. "Is your brain broken, Earthling? Do you not understand what stands before you?" Jason looked at her calmly. "I've seen worse." The crowd gasped. A few even laughed in shock. Vryza frowned. "You've got one chance to run. I won't give you another." Jason tilted his head. "What happens if I don't?" She snapped her fingers. The beast growled louder and stepped forward. It sniffed Jason. Then, it paused. The crowd expected it to attack, but it didn't. Instead, the creature tilted its head, looking at Jason strangely, curiously. It sniffed, again then stepped back. Now the crowd truly fell silent. Vryza's eyes widened. What is this?" she hissed. Jason stood still. Slowly, he raised his hand toward the beast. Some aliens screamed, but the creature didn't bite. Instead, it leaned forward and allowed Jason's hand to touch its fur. Warm, thick, alive. Jason's fingers moved slowly, carefully over the creature's neck. The beast growled softly, but it was no longer a threat. It was almost calm. Vryza shouted in rage. "Enough! Kill him! Kill him!" She pulled the chain hard, but the beast didn't listen. Instead, it growled at her. The crowd now started, murmuring. This had never happened before. The beast had killed over 20 warriors. It had eaten 3 nobles. It had never backed down from blood, but today it had. For a human. Jason turned to the crowd, then to Vryza. "Maybe your monster's smarter than you think," he said, his voice steady. Guards rushed forward, ready to take Jason away, but Vryza raised a hand to stop them. Her face showed confusion and a small trace of something else. Fear. She stepped back slowly, eyes locked on Jason. "This is not over," she whispered. "You will face something next that you cannot tame." Jason looked at the beast again, then smiled. "I'll be waiting." Above, the crowd was quiet. No one knew what to say. Some stared at the human in awe, others in disbelief. A human had just walked into the deadliest cage on the planet, and walked out with the monster as a friend. He smelled the fear, but not. From the human, Jason sat inside a dark holding cell deep under the arena. The air was damp and the stone walls were cold. Faint light flickered from old energy lamps. Chains still hung near the corner, unused now. He wasn't alone. Across the metal bars of his cell stood a tall alien with skin like polished bronze and eyes that glowed yellow. He was one of Vryza's warlords, dressed in fine armor with sharp edges. "You did something," the alien said. The beast never hesitated before. Never. Jason stayed silent. The warlord slammed the bars. "What did you do? Did you drug it? Use human tricks?" Jason slowly stood up, walking to the bars. Maybe it just didn't smell fear on me. The alien paused. Jason leaned closer. Maybe it smelled it on you. The warlord flinched. He didn't answer. After a long stare, he turned and stormed off. Behind him, a door opened. A new figure entered. It was Vriza. She walked calmly, alone this time. Her black armor still shined, but her face was serious now. No anger. No loud threats. Just curiosity. She stopped outside his cell and stared at him. You're not like the others. I get that a lot, Jason replied. You didn't run, didn't scream, didn't fight. And the beast? She narrowed her eyes. You touched it. It allowed it. Do you know what that means? Jason shrugged. Maybe it was lonely. Vriza studied him. No. You were calm. Your heart rate barely rose. The creature reads body, signals. It smelled your confidence. Maybe it liked it, Jason said with a smile. Vriza didn't smile back. Or maybe you're dangerous in a different way. She turned and signaled to the guards. Bring him. Jason was taken from the cell, not to the arena this time, but to a wide-open training field behind the palace. Alien nobles and high warriors stood in a circle, whispering and watching. In the center, a new cage was set. Inside it was another beast. But this one was different. It was smaller, thinner, but its eyes burned brighter, and its skin pulsed with glowing blue veins. Its claws were sharper, and its jaw looked like it could crush stone. It wasn't trained. It wasn't chained. Vriza stood beside it. This one has never seen combat, untamed, raw. I want to see what happens when no control is involved. Jason looked at her calmly. So you're testing me now? No, she said. I'm testing it. The cage door opened. The beast bolted out, claws digging into the ground. It charged at Jason with speed that shocked the nobles. Some turned away. Sure, the human would die in seconds. But Jason didn't move. He dropped low, letting the beast's first jump pass over him. The creature landed, skidding in the dirt, then turned, growling louder. Jason picked up a nearby stick and held it forward. The beast stopped. It paced left, then right, then back again. It hissed. Jason crouched down, slowly placing the stick on the ground. I'm not here to fight you, he whispered. I'm not like them. The beast didn't understand his words, but it watched his body, his calm hands, his slow breath, his steady eyes. It stepped closer and sniffed. The nobles gasped. The creature didn't attack. Instead, it circled Jason, then sat beside him. Vriza's jaw tightened. Murmurs spread through the watching crowd. He's not a fighter, one noble whispered. He's a whisperer, said another. Jason stood slowly and gently patted the creature's back. What now? He asked Vriza. She stared at him like she had seen a ghost. Now, you meet my army. Jason looked up. Above them, a massive warship hovered, its shadow spreading across the ground. Hundreds of beast cages lined the lower deck, and one by one, the creatures inside began to howl. Not in rage, but in recognition. The arena burns. The red sky above the arena turned dark as clouds of smoke rolled across the sun. The crowd had returned, this time louder, larger, and more excited than ever. Everyone wanted to see what the strange human would do next. This wasn't just a fight anymore. It was a spectacle. Jason stood in the middle of the arena once again, but this time no chains, no fear. He looked calm, his arms at his sides, his eyes scanning the stone walls around him. General Vriza sat high above in her royal box, silent. She didn't cheer, didn't smile. Her eyes stayed locked on the human. A loud horn echoed. A second. Gate opened. Something moved inside. Then the ground shook. Boom, boom, boom. A new monster stepped out. It was massive, but not like the others. This one looked more like a living firestorm. Its skin was dark and cracked, and molten heat glowed from underneath. Lava dripped from its mouth. Smoke rose from its back. It was not just dangerous. It was unstable. Jason narrowed his eyes. The creature charged. Flames exploded under its feet with each step. The sand sizzled wherever it landed. Even the air shimmered from the heat. Jason ran, but not away, from the beast. He grabbed a broken metal spear stuck in the ground, ducked a fire blast, and slid under the creature's legs. The crowd gasped. Flames brushed his shoulder, burning his sleeve. He rolled back to his feet and threw the spear, not at the beast but at a fuel line hidden near the arena wall. Boom. An explosion rocked the arena as the side wall caught fire. Flames spread fast, climbing the wooden structures built above the ring. The audience screamed and stood up. Guards rushed forward, but Jason moved faster. He leapt onto a fallen column, then to the burning wall. He whistled. Loud. Sharp. The beast turned, confused. Jason didn't attack, he didn't run. He raised both hands in the air. "Look at them," he shouted, pointing at the nobles. "They watch. They cheer. They want death." The beast stared at him, tilting its head. "Burn them." "And you are just their weapon," Jason said calmly. "But walk away when you become something more." The creature blinked, then it turned away from Jason and roared at the nobles. Flames shot into the air, not toward Jason but toward the royal box. Panic exploded in the stands. Alien elites ran in all directions. Vriza stood, shocked. Jason jumped down and landed near the beast's side. He reached up and touched its leg. The fire around them grew higher, but the beast's breath began to slow. It lowered its head, and it walked beside him, calmly. Together they left the burning arena. The fire didn't follow them, only silence did. Later, on the edge of the palace walls, Vriza met Jason again. "You burned my arena," she said coldly. Jason nodded. "Better a burned cage than a clean one filled with death." She stared at him. "I thought you came here to survive." "I came here to change something," he said. Vriza crossed her arms. "Then you better be ready, human. Because now, the galaxy is watching." Jason turned toward the night sky, where stars glimmered, above the smoke. "Let them watch." The Queen's challenge, the burned arena still smoked. Half of it had collapsed from the fire Jason caused. Yet the aliens returned, standing, not sitting this time. There were no games today. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was Judgment Day. Jason stood in the center again, but now there were no monsters, no chains, and no guards holding weapons to his back. He had earned their silence. But something new echoed through the air, a howdy, low, steady hum. Suddenly, a new gate opened. This one hadn't been used before. Golden panels unfolded, revealing a glowing floor. From it rose General Vriza. But she looked different. Gone was her usual armor. Now she wore ancient battle gear, dark, crimson with glowing blue lines across her arms and chest. Her long cape fluttered behind her. Her helmet was shaped like a dragon's skull. The crowd gasped. This wasn't a performance. This was tradition. Vriza walked slowly toward Jason, stopping only a few feet away. "This armor," she said, tapping. Her chest plate was worn only for two things: royal war or personal honor. Jason didn't speak. She pulled off the helmet, revealing her sharp silver eyes. "You humiliated me. My beasts obey you. My soldiers whisper your name that cannot be left unanswered." Jason finally replied. "You want to fight me?" "No," she said coldly. "I want to face you, as a warrior. No monsters, no games, just truth." The arena went silent again. Then Jason smiled. "All right then, let's dance." A warrior threw down two small objects between them, energy daggers, pulsing with red light. Jason picked his up, feeling the vibration in his palm. He had never trained with alien weapons before, but he had trained with fear, and today he had none. The moment Vriza moved, the entire arena shifted. She was fast, blindingly fast. She spun and attacked, her blade a blur. Jason barely blocked the first strike. The second one burned across his shoulder. He staggered, then regained his footing. Vriza didn't stop. She pressed forward with the fury of 1,000 battles. Jason ducked, turned, rolled, his breath sharp, his focus tighter. Each move she made was perfect. But it wasn't just about skill now. It was about will. Jason waited for an opening. Then he saw it. As Vriza stepped in for a final swing, Jason dropped to one knee and swept her leg. She fell. The crowd shouted in shock. Jason stood over her, blade pointed at her throat. But he didn't strike. He just stepped back. Vriza stared up at him, breathing hard. Her hands clenched the ground, beneath her. "You had me," she said. Jason nodded. "I know. So, why didn't you finish it?" "Because you weren't my enemy," Jason said quietly. "You were my test." She sat up slowly, wiping blood from her lip. Her expression was unreadable. Anger, confusion, maybe respect. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't scream. They just watched. For the first time in history, a human had defeated their general and walked away. Vriza stood and dropped her dagger to the ground. Then she did something no one expected. She bowed, only slightly, but it was enough. Jason returned the bow with a nod. Above them, in the far sky, a signal flashed, a beacon from another system. Vriza's eyes flickered toward it. Her voice was calm now. "You've stirred something dangerous. Others will come now. Others who won't fight fair." Jason looked toward the stars. "Then I'll do what I always do." Vriza raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "I'll stand." The monster's choice, a strange silence fell over the palace after the duel. No music, no training drills, no screams from cages, only whispers. Everyone had seen it. The human had defeated General Vriza and refused to kill her. Even more shocking, she bowed to him. That alone shook the empire like an earthquake. But the real shock came the next morning. Jason was walking alone in the inner gardens, a quiet place behind the royal hall. Vines covered ancient alien statues. Giant birds chirped from tall crystal trees. It was peaceful, until a low growl broke the silence. Jason stopped. From behind a thick tree, the beast emerged, the same monster that once stood on Vriza's chain. It stepped forward slowly, its eyes glowing softly. No guards, no collar, no command. Just choice. Jason didn't run. He waited. The creature came close and sat beside him. Jason placed a hand on its shoulder. "You followed me here?" The beast let out a low grunt. Not a growl, not a threat. Something like a greeting. Jason looked up and realized others were watching. Vriza stood in the garden balcony. Her guard stood behind her, but none moved. She looked confused. "We didn't summon it," one of her advisors whispered. "It escaped its enclosure. During the night, no signs of damage. The gate was opened." Jason stared at the creature beside him. "It made a choice," he said. Vriza's face hardened. "That's not possible." "It wasn't supposed to be," Jason replied. Before anyone could speak again, a loud siren blared from the palace tower. The sky above turned red. Warning lights flashed in every direction. An invasion fleet had entered orbit. Vriza spun toward her war officer. "Who dares approach my world without permission?" The officer's voice shook. "It's the Sarnik's warband, my general. They have declared trial combat for the throne." Jason frowned. "Trial combat?" Vriza nodded grimly. "Any Empire family can challenge the throne. It's tradition. But no one has tried in over 300 years. The officer added, "They claim you are no longer strong because you bowed to the human." Jason stepped forward. "Then let me fight." Everyone turned to him. Vriza narrowed her eyes. "You would face them? For me?" "No," Jason said. "For them." He pointed toward the cages. The creatures, the monsters, the forgotten. Suddenly, gates around the garden began to open. Not forced, but slowly, from inside. One by one, other beasts, furred, scaled, winged, emerged. No chains, no anger, just silence. And they all walked toward Jason. The guards raised weapons. Hold, Vriza said softly, raising her hand. The creatures gathered around the human, not attacking, not growling, just waiting. Jason looked at her. You asked what I was. She nodded slowly. I'm not their master, Jason said. I'm their equal. The beast beside him raised its head and let out a loud, echoing roar. But it wasn't rage. It was a call. Across the palace, every beast answered back. A chorus of power. The crowd of nobles and soldiers watching fell to their knees. Even the guards stepped back in fear, not from the monsters, but from what they had become. Jason stood tall. No armor, no weapons, no throne. But every creature that once served by fear now followed him by choice. The rebellion begins, the war drums began at dawn. Huge Zarnix warships hovered above the planet's sky like black clouds. Their engines hummed with power. Armies of armored aliens waited at the edge of the city walls, shields glowing, weapons charged. Inside the palace, the nobles panicked. We must hide the beasts, one shouted. Kill them before they turn on us, another yelled. But General Vriza raised her hand, silencing the room. No, she said. They are not our enemies today. She turned and walked to the center of the War Council room. There stood Jason, surrounded by 10 of the galaxy's deadliest creatures, each one unchained, calm, and loyal. He wasn't a guest anymore. He was something else. They come to destroy the crown, Vriza said. Jason looked out the palace window. They're not after your crown. They're after your weakness, one of the war advisors growled. And you caused that weakness, human. Jason stepped forward. No, I exposed it. You rule by fear. You call it power, but it's slavery. These creatures, they didn't choose you, they were broken into obedience. Vriza stared at him. And what do you offer, human? What replaces fear? Jason raised his hand and gently touched the head of a beast beside him. Respect. The word echoed like thunder in the silent room. Jason turned to Vriza. I'll lead the defense, he said. But I want something in return. She raised an eyebrow. You dare make demands? Yes, Jason said. I want the beasts freed. No more cages, no more collars. If we win today, they walk as equals. The room exploded in shouting. Impossible. This is madness. But Vriza didn't shout. She looked at the creatures beside Jason, how they stood still, proud, peaceful. Even the youngest guards looked unsure now. Something inside the general cracked. Slowly she nodded. If you survive, the beasts are free. Jason nodded back. Then open the gates. Outside, the battlefield stretched like a dry ocean. Red, sand and broken stone. The Zarnix army stood ready with tall towers, crawling machines, and battle beasts of their own. But when the palace gates opened, they didn't see soldiers. They saw monsters. Dozens of them. Big, fast, winged, armored creatures that once tore men apart now stood behind one man, a human. Jason walked out first, no helmet, no fear. The monsters walked behind him, silent but ready. The Zarnix warlord stepped forward. His armor was gold and black. His voice echoed through a translator. You send beasts to fight me? Where are your warriors? Jason smiled. These are my warriors. The warlord laughed. You think pets will save your empire? Jason didn't reply. Instead, he reached down and tapped the ground. One of the beasts stepped forward, then another, and then the ground shook. A massive roar tore through the air. A new creature leapt from the hills behind the palace. A beast, larger than all others, thought to be extinct. It had come, by choice. The Zarnik's warlord stepped back for the first time. Jason gave one final order. Don't fight for me. Don't fight for them. Fight for yourselves. The beasts roared together, and they charged. The battlefield exploded into chaos. Fire, smoke, sand, screams. But something was different today. For the first time, the monsters weren't killing because they were forced. They were fighting because they believed in the human, in freedom, and in their own right to choose. The beast, Whisperer. The sun rose over broken towers and smoking fields. The battle was over. The sand was painted in shadows, some from fallen machines, others from giants now resting quietly. The wind carried no roars now, only silence. And from that silence came Jason. He walked slowly across the field, covered in dust and cuts, but still standing. Around him the beasts followed, wounded, tired, but proud. Behind them the palace gates stood wide open. No one dared close them again. Alien nobles stepped out in quiet disbelief. Even the loudest critics had no words now. Their war machines had failed. Their elite troops were gone, and their hope for resistance was a human and the monsters he had freed. General Vryza stood at the top of the steps. Her armor was cracked. Her face was bruised, but her eyes were sharp. Jason stopped at the base of the stairs. For a moment, no one moved. Then, something unbelievable happened. The largest beast, the ancient one, with tusks and glowing red eyes, stepped forward. It knelt. Not in defeat, but in respect. Jason placed a hand on its head, then looked up. "This is not my victory," he said. "This is our beginning." He looked around at the nobles, the soldiers, and even the young alien children peeking from windows. "For years you called them monsters. You locked them in chains. You made them kill for sport. But they were never monsters." He pointed to the broken weapons across the battlefield. "You were." No one replied. He continued, voice steady. "You ruled with fear. You built a throne on the backs of living beings. But fear cannot lead forever. It always breaks." Vryza stepped, down her cape dragging behind her. She faced Jason directly. "Then what do you offer in its place?" Jason looked around. The creatures stood with him. The people stared at him. Even the skies felt different now. "I offer choice," he said. "I offer a voice to those who never had one, and I offer peace, if you have the courage to take it." A small alien child walked forward from the crowd. In her hand was a chain. She looked up at one of the nearby beasts. The creature, tall and sharp with wings, lowered its head. The child slowly reached out and unlocked the collar. It dropped to the ground. A soft cheer rose from the crowd. Then another. Then, louder. Vryza's guards looked at her. She nodded once. "Release them all," she ordered. "From this day forward, no more cages." The sound that followed shook the empire. Chains fell, one after another. From cages, rooms, basements. Creatures, large and small, stepped into the sunlight. Some limped, some cried out, but all looked up to the sky and breathed free air for the first time. Weeks later, across the galaxy, rumors spread. Tales of the human beast whisperer, the man who tamed monsters without whips, the man who made a general kneel, not with a weapon but with a choice. In the center of the now rebuilt arena, there was no longer blood on the sand. There was a garden, and in that garden walked Jason, now known across stars not as a warrior, but as a bridge between species, between power and peace. And beside him walked a creature that once devoured kings, now gentle as a shadow.